Okay, so here we are again. We're back studying the 12 disciples. I know it's been a few weeks because we had Easter and some other things going on, so we didn't have this class. Can we name them all without Vivian helping? Anybody? Actually, let's just start from the back. Thomas. That's the one you always forget, so he took care of that for you. Mr. Kim. Peter. Brandon?
Judas.
Judas. Which one? Both of them. All right. Yeah. I like the way you think. Vivian?
John.
John?
I think it's James, the son of Alphaeus.
Yeah, well, that's right there. Good. And since we have James, son of Alphaeus, is there another one? James, son of Zebedee. Good. All right, and now I'll just let you keep shouting them out. Bartholomew, also known as Nathaniel. Philip, yes. Was there somebody who liked to collect taxes? Matthew. What about Peter's brother? Andrew. See, if I didn't call on other people, Vivian would just get them all. I think we're also missing Simon the Zealot. And I think you guys got them all. I wasn't checking them off as I normally do. So, okay, so today we have James, son of Alphaeus. So there's a bunch of Jameses in the New Testament, right? Jesus has a brother, James, right? We have James the disciple, who is the older brother of John. And so this is James, son of Alphaeus. Now, I gotta let you guys know, these are probably the three most boring disciples, right? As far as for the most cases, like there's not a whole lot going on, right? They're kind of like that character in the background, right? If you're doing a school play and you don't want to be the lead role and you don't want to have a lot of lines, these are the three to be, right? So that's why we're doing three of them today instead of just one. They're not really mentioned a whole lot. So we have James. We don't know a whole lot about him. We don't know a whole lot about family. We know he's the son of Alphaeus. If we go back to Matthew, we learned that Matthew's other name was Levi, and they describe him as Levi, son of Alphaeus. But because they're not actually mentioned as brothers, we are led to believe that they are two different Alphaeuses, right? And as we've come to realize, in the New Testament, everybody has the same name, right? Or there's very recurring names, right? Just over and over and over again, the same names are being used. So it's unlikely that Matthew and James are brothers, but they could be, right? We don't know a whole lot about him. We don't have anything mentioned about his occupation. We don't know if he was a fisherman. We don't know where he was from. There's no big story of him meeting Jesus, right? Andrew, Peter, James, John, Matthew, they all have these kind of big stories in the New Testament about meeting Jesus, and we don't get that with him. And he's generally only actually mentioned when he's mentioned as being part of the 12, right? So like I already mentioned, he's the son of Alphaeus, and I think I'm saying that right. Possibly a brother to Matthew, also known as Levi, but we don't know that. And in Matthew 27, there is a verse that we're going to look at next where it's talking about Mary, mother of James and Joseph. This could possibly be the same James, but we don't know because the mother is being referred to by her son, not who she's married to, right? So it's a little difficult to understand. James does have a nickname. His name is James the Less, or the Lesser James. We have no idea really why he's called that, right? Just like Thomas the twin. We don't know why they called him that. He could have been a twin. He could have just looked like somebody. James the Less. So he's maybe younger or smaller, or he was out of the two Jameses, he was the younger one, right? Because just Just like in the Korean culture, being older, right, gives you more respect, right? And the same thing with the Hebrew culture. When you're older, it's more respectful. So he was the lesser James. Kind of a terrible nickname, right? Like you're literally known for being the lesser James or the younger one, right? Like not really a great nickname. All right. So we see James very, very quickly in Acts outside of the Gospels. And it's funny because this is the exact same verse that Captain Harry was preaching on yesterday and today. So it's in Acts, and it's then the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the hill called the Mount of Olives, a Sabbath day walk from the city. And when they arrived, they went upstairs to the room where they were staying. Those present were Peter, John, James, and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James son of Alphaeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas son of James. They all joined constantly in prayer along with the women, Mary the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. Right? So here we see all the disciples except Judas Iscariot being mentioned, and they're all in this upper room, and they're kind of like hiding, like Captain Harry was saying, and they're all together right after the resurrection, and it's kind of like this is like the beginning of the church, right? And if you don't know, they all get persecuted, right? And there's a bunch of Pharisees who are out trying to they're basically trying to kill them or arrest them. And the early church was called the Way, right? So that was kind of like what they called themselves. So for James, son of Alphaeus, we don't have a whole lot of historical context about his death or ministry. He kind of just disappears. We don't know what happened to him. Okay, so the next one is Simon the Zealot. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what a zealot is, because it has a lot to do with who Simon is, right? So Simon, he's called the Zealot, which was kind of like a political party, and they have a couple different names there. And basically, they opposed Roman rule over Israel to the point where it was okay to be brutal or violent towards Romans or the sympathizers of the Roman rule, right? So how can we think about this in like modern American context? So when the colonies were formed, like the 13 American colonies, right? And they were kind of just like, they wanted to be free and independent from a dictator 2,000 miles away, the King of England, right? And so what did they do? They started a rebellion and a war against a foreign country over them, right? And as you could probably imagine, like most people are probably behind that, but there's other people that don't really care, right? They just want to live their lives and they don't really want to get involved. They don't want to get caught up in these acts of violence towards the ruling government, right? Because what happens is when you start a war or you start opposing these people violently, they start making things worse and worse on the people living in that area. So the Zealots, they weren't exactly, everybody wasn't okay with them. They were very much, you were either kind of like for them or against them, right? And that's why I kind of say it's like it's like almost like a political party, right? So Simon the Zealot, he's also referred to as a Canaanite, but this is not meaning from Cana or Canaan. It's actually meaning a part of the Zealots, right? And that's kind of a little bit confusing, but what they were basically trying to do was they were trying to bring back the land of Canaan as a country, right? Does that make sense? Like they wanted Canaan to be the country of the Jews, right? That was their whole political movement, and they're also called zealots. One way we can think about this is in Afghanistan, on the eastern border of Afghanistan is Pakistan. And these two countries have a big area, and it has a tribe there, and they're called Pashtuns, right? And the Pashtun people, they don't believe in Afghanistan. They don't believe in Pakistan. They believe in Pashtunistan, right? And they speak Pashtun, right? And they want this whole area of land to be a singular country. They don't want these other countries involved. So the Canaanites, the Zealots, wanted this land of Canaan, right? And it was an idea that they had, and so they formed this group, the Zealots, to try to overtake the Roman rule and bring this kind of country into like fruition, right? Okay, so as we already stated, they were like a political group, right? A lot of times they acted in secrecy, right? They didn't always know who they were. It's kind of interesting because everybody knows him as Simon the Zealot in the New Testament, right? So maybe he was like one of like the well-known zealots. But some of the research I had was that they would come to Jerusalem, they would do like attacks, and then they would run away up to Galilee and hide, right? So some of the zealots were actually assassins, right? It's pretty cool, right? Jewish assassins, right? They would kill or attack Romans, Jewish sympathizers, and tax collectors, right? And so, who of the 12 was a tax collector? Matthew, right? You think Matthew slept with one eye open, right? Just in case, you know. I just gotta say, it's a really great testament to Jesus and his love for people and how he can bring two people together, because he literally brought together a tax collector and a zealot, right? Two people that hate each other, right? So, all right, and then the other part, we were talking about the assassins. They were called the Sicarii, and up here is a dagger, and this is actually a Sicarii dagger. So that's why they were called the Sicarii, and they would carry these around. And what they would do was they would actually kill Roman soldiers. They would sneak up behind them, and generally the best way for them to, they learned how to kill people, they would shove the dagger in between the ribs and hit the heart. And they would kill them very, very quickly. So they were very well trained. So the Zealots were well known. And a lot of people believe that in 70 AD, the Zealots they started attacking a lot of the Roman occupation within Jerusalem. And because of this, the Romans got a little mad and upset, so they decided to destroy the second temple in Jerusalem. So if you know a little bit about biblical history, if you guys have ever heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, everybody heard of these? Right? If you don't know what they are, a lot of the Jewish leaders, they saw this coming, and they took a lot of these Jewish texts, and even some of the Christian texts, and they hid them in a cave away from Jerusalem. And so when the temple was burned, all of those old ancient documents were burned along with them. So the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, I forget how long ago, I think it was like 50 something years ago. And they were found in this cave some of them were perfectly intact, some not. But we're able to actually take the Bible we have today and compare it to those ancient texts, and they're the same, right? It's pretty amazing. So without those Dead Sea Scrolls, like we wouldn't really know if we had the correct version of the Bible today. And so the Zealots, like I said, were probably responsible for setting off the Romans to destroy that temple in Jerusalem. So not a whole lot is known about Simon the Zealot after Christ's resurrection and ascension. Like many of the other disciples, he was an early church leader. And it looks like he traveled to Libya, Egypt, and Persia. So if we're looking on the map, we have Israel down in here, and then Egypt and Libya are over here, and then Persia is kind of in this Syria, Iraq area. And like all of the other disciples, he died a terrible death. The only one who only lived in the old age was who? John lived in the old age, yes. And so it is said from church history that he was sawed in half. So if you ever see a picture of Simon the Zealot, he's often pictured with a saw because that is how he was killed. And it was not this way sawed in half. It was this way sawed in half. So you can imagine, I'm not sure which direction. I was kind of reading this. One source said that they sawed him in half upside down. So that would take a really long time. Oh, man. Some of these just give me the heebie-jeebies when I'm thinking about it. Like, I just, can't even imagine the pain. Okay, so next week we get to go to everybody's favorite disciple, Judas Ischariot. He's probably the most famous. He's like the Darth Vader of the disciples, right? He's just well known for being bad, right? But this is Judas, not Iscariot, how he's referred to in John. So this is also the man of three names, right? Can't make this any more confusing. When we had two of these disciples with two names and three of them with the same name. Now this guy has three names, and oh my goodness, trying to figure out who he is throughout the New Testament can be a little difficult. So here's his names. We have Judas, son of James, Thaddeus, and Lebbaeus. So, man, it's like, how do you get started? So Judas was most likely his Hebrew name, right? It's a very common Hebrew name. The root of this name in Hebrew is actually Jude, right? And so if you think about Jude, Jesus also had a brother named Jude who wrote a book of the New Testament, right? And if you ever want to say, I read a whole book of the Bible today, go read Jude because it's one page long, right? It's debated whether this Jude and that Jude are the same. Most likely they are not, from what I have researched. So they are not the same Jude. Like always, everybody just has the same name. So why is Jude and Judas the same name? So the Romans would like to add an S onto the end of Jude because that makes it a masculine name, right? Anybody speak Spanish, right? A little bit. I speak less Spanish than I do Korean probably. So, but certain words, you put like an A at the end or an O at the end, and an O is masculine and an A is feminine, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So, like, did I say that right? I don't know. Anyways, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Is that sometimes in certain languages, you make a word masculine or feminine by changing the end of it. So, Jude becomes masculine in Roman sense by adding an S. So, Judas is now the Roman version of Jude. And so he actually has some other names. He has Thaddeus, which means breast child. Not sure exactly what they were trying to get at this. Maybe he was a small person. Maybe he, what was I going with? Oh, maybe he just was like a mama's boy when he was growing up, right? And yeah, who knows? But he had this as a name, and then he also has Labius. Labius and Thaddeus are very similar, but this one means like heart child, right? So maybe he had a very childish personality, or maybe he just got a nickname at birth. You know, sometimes we don't choose our nicknames. And I'm just saying, I've had some really bad ones given to me, and I've had some really good ones given to me. So let's just hope if you ever get a nickname, you get a good one, not a bad one, right? Especially if it gets written down in the book like the Bible. You know what I mean? You get that nickname forever. Okay, and so here, I found this very interesting. I was researching this, and I was like, so where is he Judas? Where is he Judas, son of James? Where is he Thaddeus? Where is he Labius? And so I found this verse in Matthew 10, and I had it set up for the NIV version of the Bible, so the New International Version. If you don't know, I really like looking at different translations sometimes. I think you get a lot more detail. And sometimes you get like a better understanding because these words are translated from Greek into English, right? And so sometimes translation doesn't come across very well. And so here, if I'm looking at the New King James Version, if we look down here, he is just called Labius, whose surname was Thaddeus. If we look at that in the NIV version, I think it just said Judas, son of James. So it's very interesting how the different translations work out. And so once again, Judas is a little bit boring. He doesn't do a whole lot. He does have like one line in the New Testament though, right? I'm sure he did much more, right? But this is what John and some of the other disciples remembered, right? And this is what they like Matthew or Peter, this is what they told other people to write down, right? So here we have Judas here in the New Testament. A little while longer, and the world will see me no more. But you will see me, because I live, you live also. At that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me, and he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. So that's Jesus speaking. And so John here refers to Judas as Judas, not Ischariot. It's kind of great to be known as not somebody else too, right? Judas, not Iscariot, said to him, Lord, how is it that you will manifest yourself to us and not to the world? And Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him. And we will come to him and make our home with him. And he who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. So this is the only part of the New Testament that I can find Judas, not Iscariot, without being named in the 12. So what did he do later on? Well, he started St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. Can you believe that? He discovered the Americas in 1492. Okay, y'all are paying attention. That was wrong. He did not do that. Okay, he simply just had a hospital that was named after him. All right, I gotta make sure you guys are staying awake. You know what I mean? Did I get anybody? No? Okay, I tried. Yeah, so St. Jude's Hospital is named after the Apostle Jude. So here we have a little bit of where he went. It says the church history says he went to Edessa. And so if we look where Edessa is, it is up in this region, so right above modern day Syria. And of course he went all in this other area of Persia. And it says that he healed the king Abgar. And because he healed the king Abgar, many people flocked to Jesus. Our church history tells us that he died by either a club or an axe. So if you see pictures of Jude, or you see artwork of him being depicted, you often see him carrying a club or an axe. And sometimes he's mixed up with Thaddeus of Edessa, because having everybody with the same name isn't confusing. And then here's another image of him depicted. You often see him with a medallion of Jesus on his chest, and then you also see this flame coming up. The flame has something to do with at the Pentecost when they were filled with the Holy Spirit and able to speak in tongues. So, and that's all we have for the three disciples today. So today we learned about James, son of Alphaeus. We learned about Simon the Zealot, and we learned about Judas, the man of three names.